Well, Geoff, 22 years service as a PA announcer at Durham. You've decided to step down following the end of the season. How much have you enjoyed being involved over the last 2 decades?
It's been a tremendous enjoyment and also a privilege to have been involved with the club as it's grown from its early days and through into all the achievements that it's achieved now. Yes, that was very good.
Take us back to the start. Why was it that you got involved at Durham County Cricket Club?
Initially, there was an announcement made for volunteers, for commentators for the visually impaired and also the PA. And I didn't hear anything back from the PA, but I did hear about the visually impaired, which I took up before I started the PA. And it was just a little while after that we used to be invited at one time to the Falcons for an evening. And I was sitting beside John Wakefield in the stand, and he happened to mention to me, "Do you fancy coming and joining the PA team?" And so I grabbed the chance and so started there. And I remember that when I first started, we used to do the announcing from the players' dining room.
2 decades, obviously a lot of announcements over that time. Have you got any special memories of announcements which you've made over the years which really stand out in history?
Yeah, I've had 3 matches in my memory for some time, and I'll just go through one of them, and that was the first semi-final when we got to Lords in 2007, when we played Essex in the semi-final, and it went basically almost down to the wire. And I was there and on the PA that day, and for me that was a lasting memory, even almost more so than getting down to Lords for the game itself. But that was there. Apart from other memories, well, I suppose one has to admit that at times you make mistakes. And I remember the biggest one I think I made was at the end of a game against Lancashire. And it was the final session, and as is our wont, we welcome back the umpires for the session. And the umpires that day were Steve O'Shaughnessy and Richard Kettleborough. And so I was on the mic, and so as they came out, I said, "Please welcome back our match umpires, Steve O'Shaughnessy and Richard Attenborough." And I had no concept that I'd said anything wrong until John Luke and Alan Harrison, who were in the same room then, were doubled up laughing. And I don't know how many more spectators noticed, but I was certainly told about it.
And over 20 years, how much will you miss being involved on a day-to-day basis at Durham?
Well, one of the great things about being involved with the PA has been the friendship and the companionship of those whom I've worked with. And it's been a great pleasure, and that is what I will miss a lot. I mean, I shan't stop coming up to the ground, I hope, but I shall miss that involvement with them, as well as my own doings with the PA.
It's made watching the game so much more interesting. You take a different point of view on things. It's not just sitting in the crowd and watching it. You also get to know people better, and it's definitely improves the experience, shall we say.
Take us back to the beginning. Why was it that you decided to get involved as a PA announcer?
To go back to the beginning, I actually took a very early retirement from my previous existence, and started to go to watch Durham regularly, and at that time the second team played a lot of games. And the person who ran the PA at the time spotted me and said, was I interested? And so I said yes, and went along and thoroughly enjoyed it. And at that time, they used to have a chap from Radio Stockton, I think it was, used to do it. And I sat in with him a few times, and you get used to it and you start to get to do it. And yes, I was very interested to do it, and as I say, it gives a different perspective on the game.
And when you've done this for so long, how much will you miss being involved day to day announcing at the Riverside?
Oh, tremendously. Yes, obviously. But there does come a time for everybody. Everything has to change. I'm hoping I might still be able to carry on doing the visually impaired. But you know, I've done 26 years or whatever it is, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And as I say, everything has to come to an end.
Mixed emotions over it. We had times when it's been fun, it's been good. There are also times when I haven't enjoyed it so much. We made mistakes. No, I don't think anybody who does the job doesn't make mistakes.
Over 2 decades being involved, is there any standout announcements which you've made over that time which really live in your memory?
It wasn't necessarily an announcement, but I was sat in front of the players' dining room, which is where we operated from initially, and we had a script to read at lunchtime, various things, concerts coming up, etc. And I got halfway through this, and Tony Cotty, who was one of, I can't remember what county he played for, you might remember, he snatched the script out of my hand. So I was left floundering, so I had to sort of waffle a little for a little bit, until he very graciously handed the script back to me.
Being involved for so long, how much will you miss not being involved day to day announcing the proceedings at Durham?
I'll miss it too. I wouldn't, some's the wrong word. I will miss it, full stop. I've enjoyed it. I miss the humour that we've had. In particular, you must have heard it, Cyril Rickaby, who, faced with having to pronounce Multiamuralitharan, got in a right old state, and he started saying moo, 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 moo. I thought, hell's bells, there's a bloody load of cows coming down the road. He couldn't get past the start of it. I'll miss the humour. We've had a fair bit of humour. I won't miss, it sounds a bit silly in a way, because we're only volunteer announcers, but I won't miss the responsibility. I won't miss the responsibility that you have, trying to get it right, making certain that the announcements are correct. Well, that more or less sums it up, Sam.